Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing tonight? Well, you see, I know I promised you guys Armageddon, but the thing about that is apparently, I say allegedly, Iran has agreed to a ceasefire, which is great news. It's not so great news for those of you out there who were wishing for a taco moment. But we're going to listen in to a few and see if we can get the whole story.
For a period of 2 weeks, safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz will be possible via coordination with Iran.
We're still going to stay here until after 8.
Due consideration of technical limitations. So obviously that's the framework right now, as they potentially could be working toward a fuller negotiation on those 15-point and the 10-point plan. We'll get into all of that here on Live Now from Fox. Let's take another quick 2-minute break.
Commercial. I'm going to check in on CNN.
They're not that is a wholehearted, nuts to bolts agreement to end the conflict, or a more selective agreement that will, bring a pause to what President Trump has threatened in these extremely escalatory comments.
The dream saved humanity.
Yeah. Don't leave it to CNN to properly characterize it, right? Sure. Iran hours away from the deadline. Yeah, they're late. This is one of those CNN -18 people that usually it's being put up by some foreign entity, and in this case, I forget who it is. But yeah, it's you should pay attention to the names of the channels that you watch. Just because you see CNN on there doesn't mean that it's anything worthwhile. Here we go. We'll go to CBS.
What party he's representing.
And to that point, the issues came up quite a bit when speaking to voters. Obviously, affordability, that has been top of mind for many, especially in a district like this one that relies so heavily on cost effectiveness, so to speak, being acutely aware to everything from gas prices and grocery prices, but even diesel fuel prices, given the large number of agricultural professionals here in this area as well. But they also say that they want whoever that wins tonight to go to Washington, D.C. to have a bit of integrity. One wordman we spoke with was very concerned about term limits. Another very concerned about immigration. So really, bunch of drops in different buckets, so to speak. A lot of people saying that they want different things. All in all, as I said, whoever wins tonight will have to do it all over again.
Yes, they will. But they'll be in the seat. Might be a little bit easier that way.
Looks like CBS isn't really saying too much. Let's go over to Newsmax. I know, I was expecting some
hopefully
Armageddon.
it will accomplish something. And it is a good reminder, as
How depressing that it's not the end of the
full might
world.
of the United States comes up against one of our enemies like Iran, they have to stop and think just how far do they want to go on this. Because President Trump is unlike any other of his predecessors. He's truly unique in that he will operate in an entirely different way. And the standard operating procedure you're used to having with other presidents, it doesn't work with President Trump. And this is important not only as we're talking about the elections coming up. The American people want us to be able to focus more on domestic issues. They want us to be strong. They want us to defeat our enemies. And then they want us to focus on what's happening back at home. And I'm hopeful that this ceasefire will help wind down this process. We'll get to where we need to be, and we can focus on helping folks here at home ahead of the midterms.
Well, Jack, getting to the Georgia congressional race, President Trump endorsed.
I do believe nukes were on the table because of something that J.D. Vance said, which I want to play you so y'all can see for yourself what I'm talking about. Yeah, check this out. Oh, really? And we did. Yeah, see, I tend to think that he was possibly referring to nukes, because, I mean, what else would you bring up that you're not going to explicitly label, right? Like, he sidestepped what it was. We have tools in our tool bag that we can decide to use, you know what I mean? So, like, you know, he went out of his way to not name it specifically. It sounds like what they were using, so... Seems to me, you know, the Iranian regime that was no surrender and no compromise, perhaps they got the message. Or perhaps it's BS. What do you think? Because I'm not entirely sold. All I know is these headlines. Trump announces ceasefire in Iran. Let's listen in.
The Republican Party is, we're here for you, we're fighting for you, and they're the party of insanity.
That was a brilliant campaign ad, Katie. Thanks for reminding me of that one. Jack, I want to head north from
Somehow I know exactly who she was talking about.
I just want to say that's why she's such a great consultant. She can frame the whole year up in a quick paragraph.
Yeah, well, I mean, it does sum things up nicely, doesn't it? How much better off are we without that nonsense to deal with? But, Jack, I do want to head north from your old stomping grounds to Wisconsin.
They're
because
not,
Democrats there.
They're still dicking around. Let's go over to
the president
these guys.
kind of view that, because you mentioned the next few hours are very critical. What is adequate in terms of what the White House needs to see?
Well, I mean, as President Trump clearly stated, the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz and no attacks coming from the Islamic regime against the Arab states, the Arab allies, and against shipping in the Strait of Hormuz and against Israel. I think if the next few hours we see zero attacks coming from Iran and we see the gradual opening, because again, I think expecting things to move to 100% in the Strait of Hormuz so quickly is unrealistic.
Yeah, it's going to take a while.
If we see a gradual reopening and more commercial ships
that's fine.
Entering the Strait of Hormuz or passing through the Strait of Hormuz, then we might be seeing signs that indicate that this ceasefire will hold. I mean, until,
we'll see.
The next few days. But
we shall see.
If nothing changes, and if the Strait remains closed and we start seeing attacks, then again, as I stated, we might see a return to the escalation.
Now, what do you think? Do you think this is going to last? I'm not so sure. I mean, I feel like, you know, we were supposedly in negotiations with them when we initially attacked them anyway. So it's certainly in Iran's wheelhouse to create some sort of subterfuge and then lie about what it is, you know. So I don't, me personally, I don't know that this is going to hold. I hope it does. I hope I'm wrong. But yeah, I don't trust Iran. We shouldn't either. But, excuse me, give them the benefit of the doubt, right? We'll see. Now, the thing about that is if they do turn around and betray us and breach the contract here, this little verbal ceasefire contract, right? If they turn around and start some shit anyway, well, I think that will elicit a more extreme response from us had it just gone the way it was going to go, you know? So we still may yet see some wild stuff. I'm going to continue to listen because maybe we'll get some more information about all this.
We're returning to using the Strait.
I'm actually trying to find some foreign news to see what other places are talking about. So bear with me. I'm going to find something.
We talk about it in Ukraine, in Israel, between Israel and Hamas, but also in this, how delicate a ceasefire might be. How much are you watching and what keys are you looking at over the next couple weeks to make sure this fragile ceasefire holds in place?
Well, I mean, I'm looking at the role of Iran and its proxies in this war. I think if we, of course, there's been a decoupling of the Hezbollah, Lebanon, Israel front with the Iran, U.S., Arab states, Israel front. So I think we might still see the continuation of Israel's campaign against Hezbollah, the ground operation that is currently happening in South Lebanon, as well as the degradation of Hezbollah's military capabilities. In other fronts, the Iraq front, I think we might see a quieter front than Lebanon, where the Iraqi militias will try not to attack the U.S. bases and U.S. interests in Iraq.
I do have something.
And,
1 second.
and from Iran's end, I think we need to see, or I'll be tracking to see if there's a reduction or an absence of attacks against Arab Gulf states that have been facing, again, relentless attacks on their infrastructure, economic and civilian, since the start of the war. So these will be important indicators that will really define the upcoming days and the future of the ceasefire.
Yeah, President Trump called it a double-sided ceasefire, but we know there's a third party involved, and that being Israel, as they are likely involved in the ceasefire as well. Trey Ying's on the ground there saying the president talking about this agreement. He also said that moments after President Trump announced an agreement of 2-week ceasefire, early alerts were sent out for incoming missile fire toward Tel Aviv. How much is this a test for the United States and Israel? Their kind of allegiance to one another for this ceasefire, because we know how Israel feels about Iran, saying that they're that existential threat. How much of a challenge will this be for Israel to be involved in these negotiations, be on board with the United States as they kind of take this pathway over the next 2 weeks?
I mean, I think Israel initially understood that the decision lies. I mean, President Trump is the decision maker in this context, and I think despite all this information...
This is a letter sent to the United Nations by the people of Iran. This is quite interesting. I happen to love this. Let's see, let me make it nice and big, because I know you guys like big things. All right. A message to the United Nations from Free Iran. Now, shame on you. You should be standing for life, freedom, and human dignity, the values on which you were founded. Instead, you stand with our oppressors and try to thwart the efforts of those who are trying to help us. You said nothing in January as the Iranian regime gunned down over 40,000 of its own citizens on the streets, repeating an unconscionable pattern of conduct that has been going on for 4 decades. You sat silently throughout this conflict as the Iranian regime used cluster munitions to intentionally inflict maximum pain on civilians in Israel. You sat back as the regime targeted popular hotels and crowded civilian airports and critical infrastructure in the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and throughout the Middle East. You tried to justify the October 7th massacre, the most brutal and cruel terror attack of our time, in which 1,200 people from dozens of nations were horrifically tortured, raped, and murdered, including the burning of babies and the beheading of men. You sat back for decades as the Iranian regime, the greatest state sponsor of terrorism in the world, along with its terror proxies, intentionally and horrifically maimed and murdered hundreds of thousands of innocent men, women, and children inside Iran, throughout the Middle East, and around the world. Now, there's more to this letter. This is all of it that I could find. But this is from the people of Iran. Now, you take a look at that flag and how it differs from the flag of the IRGC, the Islamic Republic. That's the flag that we want in Iran. We are trying to destroy the Islamic Republic because they're a bunch of crazy, fundamental, prophecy-chasing morons. Maniacs. They've murdered over 1 million of their own people in the last 47 years. Over 1 million. Now you might be like, well, where do you get that number from? Buddy, I got sources. Okay, I got another video. Actually, 2 different videos. One of them explains the Islamic Republic's ridiculous prophecy that their entire theocratic, their entire thing is built upon this prophecy. You see, after Muhammad in Islam, there were 12 imams to carry more prophecy or whatever, to carry on the legacy, or I guess I'm not really sure, but there were 12 successors, more or less. These are what the 12er Shias believe. And the final imam, his prophecy, he said that Armageddon needed to be brought upon the earth, and would only be brought once Israel is destroyed and the world is in chaos. And basically instructed them to, by any means necessary, make this happen. And then, of course, this 12th imam vanished, and he's believed to have gone to another time or another dimension, similar to the way Enoch disappeared in the Bible, right? Well, so they basically function, they basically operate on a directive from God, who's instructed them that they must destroy Israel by any means necessary, which means that they have license to lie and deceive. Doesn't go against their religious beliefs because they're doing it for God. I mean, it is so convoluted and ridiculous how these morons could believe this stuff. I mean, belief's a powerful thing. When you grow up with it and it's been handed down from generation to generation, it's easy for these things to take hold, I suppose. But yeah, so upon this revelation, then they take to stashing weapons in civilian locations and neighborhoods like hospitals and schools, by utilizing their proxy militias like Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis in Yemen, because those people are closer to Israel than Iran is. So they stash all these weapons in these places, and when they attack Israel from places like schools and hospitals, well, what do you think happens? Israel responds to defend itself, and they fire back. Without knowing where they're firing, they're just firing back. And when they end up firing in schools and hospitals, in neighborhoods. And then what do? They turn around and say, look, Israel's attacking our civilian locations and our hospitals and our schools, when they were just defending themselves. In fact, that's all Israel has ever done, is defend itself. But the propaganda is heavy and thick. In fact, you're probably aware of some of it that you've seen recently, and social media is ripe with some complete and utter BS that's been circulated by the Islamic Republic of Iran. So, I find that not many people know about the whole prophecy angle. And compound that with, I have a list of the murders and rapes and stuff that they do. It's just hard. It's hard to look at and hard to read. I mean, they sent a group of kids as young as 11 years old with the elderly with little plastic keys around their neck into a minefield so they could detect mines for the military. Told them that the key around their neck was a gate to heaven. What kind of pieces of human garbage do these sorts of things? The kind that we need to wipe off the face of the planet. That's my opinion. Not a popular one, I'm sure, but anyway, there's 2 videos that I was just taking that information from that I made. They're in my videos. I forget what they're called, but yeah. Sorry. That shit scatters my brain because it's just so horrible, man. Like, they strung up kids by crane, 6 at a time in some cases, all for speaking out, protesting, or, God help you if you, if you're a woman and you showed hair. And then, these women don't get penalized for being raped. What? Like, they can go to jail and be beaten because they were raped. Yeah, these maniacs need to die. Sorry. Not sorry. They just do. I mean, it's just ridiculous. We need to wipe this scourge off the face of the planet by any means necessary. And you know what? If that means what you think it means, then they're not going to stop. They will not stop. They have a mandate from God to do this crap. Crap wasn't my first choice of word, by the way. But they literally have a mandate from God and a prophecy that tells them they're right to do it. You're not going to kill an idea like that by slowly dismantling it, We all know how hard it is or how impossible it is to kill an idea. It ain't happening. You've got to completely dissect the entire animal. It's kind of a crude analogy, but it's true. All right, I start talking about this stuff and it makes me shaky because it really just, it's like a thorn in your brain, man. It's terrible shit. It shouldn't happen, but it does. And we, as an American military force, we find ourselves in the unique position of being able to help. Now, I don't think we should be poking our nose into other countries' business and their affairs. Of course, that's a given. It should be a standard. But the only exception to that is that we find ourselves in the unique position of being able to help. And when the people of Iran are in the streets like they are, begging us to not stop bombing, to finish the job, and they are singing our praises literally in the street, well, we have an obligation, I think. If you're able to help someone, they ask you for help and you say no, to me, that's wrong. If we're able, we are in that unique position to be able to help, and we should, based on that alone. Now, at the same time, yeah, we shouldn't get involved in other people's politics, but that pretty much applies to, just their everyday functioning. That's not what we're doing, I realize that by and large, this whole war is not namely about the humanitarian side of things, but you know what? It's a damn good result that could come of it. And I think, yeah, sorry, man. It really upsets me when I start talking about this stuff, and it scatters my brain. So if I seem a little all over the place, that's why. I'm going to put this back on, but I'm going to put the links to those videos in the description.
To that kind of conversation. We also know Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner also involved. So lots of different characters, players in this region for the next 2 weeks. And Phil Stewart talking about this from Reuters, saying started the day with a threat to end Iranian civilization, ended it with a ceasefire. So a lot has changed between this morning and this evening, between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. as we are now closing in what would have been that stark deadline set by the president, saying that they could potentially send Iran back to the Stone Age. But now with ceasefire, talks will continue on. Diplomacy wins, at least for the moment. And also, we want to put this up here on Live Now.
I'm still going to pay attention for the rest of the night because
information. What questions do you have about
anything
what's
could
going
happen.
on in Iran? What are
we're
your
right
thoughts
in the
on this
beginning
ceasefire,
of the
this
ceasefire
two-sided
idea.
deal in place, and what could come next? Scan that QR code at the top right portion of your screen. You'll be able to add some of those.
Don't scan that code.
The Ask Now tab will have answers with our foreign policy experts a little bit later on tonight. Again, QR code, top right portion of your screen. What questions do you have about this ceasefire, about the Strait of Hormuz, about what it could
scan
look
that
like
code
in
instead.
14 days' time
That
as
one's
this
mine.
delicate
I can vouch
ceasefire
for
goes
it.
into place the next few hours, next few days. So very crucial. Mini Mac, we're back after this.
Okay. Let's see. I don't like keeping commercials on. Try and get away from them for you.
On, head for shelter, toss back to you, but it looks like these missiles are on their way here.
Oh, shit.
Wow. Take cover, Zach. Plausible deniability for Iran. Oh, we're not doing it. The people in the field are doing it.
Already?
Zach, do you have another minute that you can stick around, or do you have to go?
Damn.
No, I have a minute here.
That was quick.
Give me a second to put my helmet on.
Oh, see? He's a veteran right here. He's a young-looking man, but he's a veteran war correspondent already, and we appreciate
What the
his
hell's
efforts
going on?
very
Why don't y'all
much,
quit
Zach.
joking around and tell us what happened?
Yeah, Rick, this is war 6 or 7, depending on how you count them for me. I apologize, my back's going to be to you here. We're watching the sky to the east. And control, we do have that second shot up on the fire bridge, if you have it, of the skyline. I'm not seeing anything right now. And no outgoing interceptors. That's pretty usually a good sign. I mean, I think back to the 12-day war. Nothing compares to the 12-day war, honestly. At this point in this war, we would get the sirens going off, and really your blood would run cold because you knew that there was, oh my goodness, we've got something breaking apart over the clouds here. Very bright, but it's blocked by the clouds, and I hate that I can't see it coming in. Okay, we got one missile coming in between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv.
All right, I just added the
apart,
links
looks
to
like
the
a
two
shooting
videos
star
in
and
the
streaking
description
all the while.
on
That's usually a
YouTube.
good
I'm
sign
getting to
that something hit
I'm
it
getting to
as it was
Rumble here in a
re-entering the
second.
atmosphere, and so it's failing. It's flailing towards the Earth, continuing to streak down
What's
and fall. That looks like
flailing?
it's going to fall in the West Bank. I mean, that's just how small this country is. And again, we're losing it now below the buildings, it's tracing towards the Earth, praying nobody's standing right where that thing is landing, and especially, ooh.
Whoa.
That kind of came out of nowhere for me. Did you see what caused that explosion?
Your mom?
Yeah, Rick, not a cluster warhead. I think I'm confident enough in saying...
Those cluster warheads are insane.
I'm listening
Pretty
to the,
sure that constitutes a war crime.
Explosions now. So that big boom we just heard...
All right. On Rumble
I spoke
and
way
YouTube,
too soon. That's a cluster.
if you refresh and look in the description, you'll see the links to the two videos I was just talking about. Why Iran and Israel
Are you able to hear those
at each other's
rumbles?
throats, and the list with sources of the over 1 million people that the
so
Islamic
there
Republic has murdered
what is
over
that,
the last 47
more than a dozen,
years.
coming up on 2 dozen. Yeah, that was a cluster. I really should have. I was speaking out of turn there because we have every time seen the cluster warhead break apart and it streaks into dozens of smaller targets. We've been showing you that video this entire war, but it's dependent on atmospheric conditions. So it's only glowing red, and you're only seeing dozens of those targets based on whatever the weather is like at 20, 30,000 feet. It cools off as it's re-entering the atmosphere, and I continue to hear these rumbles here. So definitely a cluster warhead impacting somewhere to our north. I would wager probably a good 15, 20 miles away from us. So we're out of danger here, but I really cannot understand, other than what I was explaining earlier, why would you fire ballistic missiles in at Israel after a ceasefire announcement? That's a provocation that will, I mean, go back to one of those things, Rick.
Yeah, could well be that. Zach Anders, cool and calm under fire, literally, and we appreciate it very, very much. I mean, I'm rattled all the way over here, hearing those sirens. It reminds me of the way things were when I was there, but you know what? I'm glad you're the guy on the ground, Zach. Thank you again.
I had some jackass in the chat who just tried to started spamming. I'll read what he said. It's a fake war, you dummy. China and Russia call the shots. He posted that like 5 times. And then he said, it's a fake war. Trump literally told his buddies the time and date to pump and dump the stock market. Look, man. Yeah. Plenty of people on the inside made money on some plays because of the war. But that's not the reason for the war. Jesus Christ. Get you some history, man. Iran, the 12er Shia sect of Islam has been trying to destroy Israel for 1,000 years. That's documented. retard. The Earth is flat, and the moon's made of cheese,
and we're
too,
back
by the
here,
way.
we're doing this again a year from now. That will have been a failure, not a success.
All right, that is a very good point. And obviously, President Trump, over the weekend, that expletive-laden post on social media saying they needed to
That was
open
great.
the
Are you
ethics
kidding
trade.
me?
And also today saying the threat
Look at them. They're
of
both
the
smiling.
annihilation,
You know it's
whole
funny.
civilization
Relax.
will die to net tonight. Did that just the
be
size
so
and
uptight.
magnitude of the threat? Do you think that moved the needle?
Hard to know. And I guess it really comes down to is which needle was being moved. Was it their needle? Was it our needle? As I said before, I think that economic pressure was imposing upon us and being felt by the White House to no small extent. So look, I think
Now
it's hard to kind of anticipate
watch
what might
some
have
like
been
AI
behind,
video or some propaganda
the bluster,
BS
the
coming out
threats,
of
this kind of thing. I have no doubt that the U.S. military could have
saying that they
a
didn't
number
request
of,
a ceasefire.
very aggressive strikes on infrastructure and that kind of thing. But in some ways, this was perhaps the most likely outcome.
Yeah,
I will,
yeah.
however,
Since when do we start believing Iran anyway? You know, these are the same jackasses that claimed that they didn't have missiles that would travel over 2,000 kilometers. And what did Trump say during his State of the Union? He said they had the capability of striking Europe. Those were his exact words. And then what happened on all the late night shows and The View and on your liberal news stations the next day? Oh, that speech was littered with lies. Yeah, Trump was vindicated and proven right. Nobody pointed that out. No, of course not. Can't do that. It's the same sort of hypocrisy with the never-Trumpers that even in the face of a good reason to be at war with these total and complete pieces of human garbage, the Islamic Republic, they'll still manufacture a reason not to be over there. Now, I'm not going to rant again about it, I promise. But, yeah, don't get me started.
About
These
the military,
jerks.
the posture in the region. We also know this is a double-sided ceasefire. It's interesting that Israel not really included in that, but right now Trey Ying's posting that sirens are sounding across southern Israel amid new incoming fire, potentially and likely from Iran.
Yeah, they ain't got the memo
How much
yet.
could this be? Saying cluster munitions raining down right now on Tel Aviv, and we are just minutes now into this ceasefire taking place. How much is Israel involved in this? How much do they need to be saddled up next to the United States for the next couple weeks?
That is a very interesting and important question. I caught the double-sided piece of it, not three-sided piece of it as well. And by the way, the reports not only of
Read
the
that
Israel
when you
thing
get a
that just
chance.
mentioned there, but there's reports about missiles headed to the UAE. So look, there's multiple
Dude,
players
Iran's
here.
crazy.
The Iranians, in whatever set of wisdom, they've been firing at all of their
It
neighbors.
would not surprise
in the
me
region
one
for
bit if
whatever
Iran turned around and started
calculus that
striking their
seems to
enemies,
serve.
their
So we will
neighbors
see if
again,
this
like they did in the
holds.
beginning of this war.
I think it will hold because, again, the U.S. is in so many respects the most important player here. But again, back to implementation and enforcement. The onus is going to be upon the White House. The onus is going to be upon the United States to call a spade a spade.
Yeah, I
and
got your
to,
onus right here.
Call out the Iranians for violating the terms, whatever the terms and conditions are. And I'm just going to use a phrase here, to snap back to the
Why'd you have to
maximum
qualify
pressure
it?
that we've been seeing
I'm
here.
gonna use a
You know,
phrase
this is
here.
The phrase "snap back" on the sanctions from the Obama.
Yeah, I'm going to
period,
use
on
a
the
sentence
the
here.
Iran deal from,
Go fuck yourself.
a decade ago. So I think the onus is going to be on the White House to, no kidding, walk the walk and to be prepared.
I'm going to use a
snap
cliche
back,
here.
If and when, I would say, the Iranians begin to not comply.
I hope you all
How
read
delicate
that.
is it? Because you
I
get
thought
to
that
kind
was
of a
very
sense of
interesting.
it,
That's
that we're now in this 2 weeks, but
a journalist
both
from
sides, all
Kuwait.
three sides that somewhat involved. The United States has been pummeling Iran for the last several weeks, the better part of more than a month. Iran.
This is
striking at
actually
different
from the
Gulf
UN.
Arab nations, striking at Israel. Israel doing their part. How delicate? How fragile?
I'm pretty sure this is the UN's live stream.
In some respects, the U.S. wants it to be. So I think that there's a high tolerance level that the White House appears to be manifesting right now.
Excuse me?
Keep in mind that, after Iran struck the al-Assad bases, 5 years ago or something like that, that there was not a response. People forget that. People always talk about the Soleimani strike, but they always seem to forget that after Iran's response to the Soleimani attack was to strike U.S. bases and was to strike other things in the region, to which there was a very muted
Now, while
response.
you're listening to a guy at the UN talk, whatever he may be saying, I'm going to leave up here on the screen a letter to the UN from the Iranian people. So you can read that at your leisure.
Incidents of aggressive behavior and interference with their mandated activities. In the sector west, a logistical convoy was blocked on a road south of Baida by IDF forces who fired warning shots, forcing our convoy to return to base. Late yesterday afternoon...
you're not going to be able to read it. I read it to you guys earlier.
Was stopped
it's
at a
blurry. I
roadblock
could barely
southeast
see
of
it over here.
Taipei and threatened by IDF personnel, who forced the peacekeepers out of their vehicles to inspect the content, and they seized 2 Unifil radios before compelling the IDF units to vacate the area. Once again, any intimidation or any interference with the mission's Security Council mandated tasks must stop immediately. We continue to call on all sides to avail themselves of diplomatic channels, cease hostilities,
Yeah, that doesn't
and
work
recommit
with
to the
Iran.
full implementation of Resolution 1701. We have been exercising our good offices at all levels on this issue. Meanwhile, on the humanitarian front, from which you'll hear a bit more tomorrow from our colleague Imran Riza, given the extremely deteriorating humanitarian situation, the World Health Organization and its partners continue to support the government of Lebanon in sustaining essential services. To date, nearly 70,000 health consultations have been provided, including more than 800 for pre- and postnatal care. More than 51,000.
Great. You're getting your humanitarian stuff in order. That's great. That's great. It's about damn time the UN acknowledges what's actually going on over there. They've been just so intent on not making Iran mad. Being Iran's bitch, more like it.
Else is talking about, and that is the Iranian shutdown of their own domestic internet. That has had enormous implications and crippled their economy as much as anything else. But it prevented the Iranian people's ability to organize because they needed the internet to communicate back in the protest in December and January. And when people feel isolated and alone and don't know who's where, and if there's large groups going to come out, they're less inclined to rebel, especially with bombs falling around.
That was the whole point.
The Iranian government is going to have to reopen the internet at some point soon to prevent even more
They
of an
don't have to
economic
do a damn
collapse.
thing.
And when they do, what's that going to look like? Because I think the Iranian regime is far weaker than anybody realizes, and the economic problems which cause those revolts are getting worse, not better. So coming days and weeks, let's see if the Iranians open up their internet and see what happens inside Iran.
Days and weeks, yeah. This ceasefire is supposed to last for 2
all
weeks.
of the propaganda from the American left move.
Meanwhile, the market's going to be flat. Oil is probably, if we don't see some throughput at the Strait of Hormuz, if we don't see some flow, you're going to watch oil run back up. But that'll be the test, won't it? To see how many tankers actually make it through and how many American tankers, or at least bound for America, make it through. What is old Netanyahu saying?
Well, it's significant. As long as Israel stayed in the box and hit targets that we had approved, and I say approved because it's not a
he wasn't saying anything.
A peer relationship. We're actually in the lead. Sorry, Israel. As long as they followed the guidance about what they were allowed to hit.
Well, that guy's not going to have a job in the morning.
The air order. Then
badmouth Israel
okay,
on the news.
fine.
You're done.
But what we can't do is inhibit the free Iranian people from rising up and having an economy over the horizon of a welfare state and sectarian violence. And we've been down this road before. So we're not out to vanquish Iran and the Iranian people. What we're out to do
not the people.
is to make this regime worthless and on its last legs.
Yes.
And so that's what's going to happen next.
You ask me.
I
They
know
need
there's
to be
been
vanquished.
alignment issues between the IDF and the American military, and hopefully
They're not
we've
gonna
got
stop.
those things all sewed up. But make no mistake, we are at the lead of this. This is not Israel in the lead. We are in the lead, and we decide what the targets are.
I hope that's clear to everybody. President Trump understands
It's
he's the
not.
commander-in-chief of the greatest nation in the world, history of the world, and he's acting like it. Now,
It's not clear.
I think you were
It's not
sharing this
clear.
plane. They were
to
forming
plenty of
human
people.
chains at power plants and bridges. Iran even encouraging
people
young
out there.
people, kids. to
You've
be
seen the
shields.
memes.
John, do you think these people were coerced? Blaine says he believes they were let out at gunpoint. What are your thoughts?
What?
Yeah, well, two things stand out about that. This is a tradition for Iran to do things like that. Their blatant disregard for the safety of their own people. The second thing is, if you look at
disregard for the
those
safety
pictures,
of their.
right,
Are you kidding me?
This is not organic. Those crowds are measured in the dozens and hundreds. If it's organic, the numbers tend to be much, much larger. And they're standing in a row. It's dozens and hundreds, and there's not a lot of enthusiasm. So that's so that kind of tells you what I think you need to know about that. Just the numbers alone.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, it seems like there's probably somebody somewhere behind the scenes with a gun pointed at him saying, wave those flags, wave
Such
those
a
flags.
shame, man.
Now, Iran's supreme leader is reportedly incapacitated and unable to make decisions. So, Blaine, who do you think is actually in control of Iran right now?
I'm going to guess the person who's really in charge is
Your
either one of the
daddy, Trump.
parliamentarians, like the Speaker of Parliament, or the Prime Minister, or even Pezeshkian. And then after that, it's going to be some IRGC folks. They probably
all
got
need
a
to
lot
be
of
wiped
loyalty
off the
issues
map.
right now inside that camp, because a lot of the IRGC, they don't have deals. They're going to have to decide at what time do I flip over.
It makes me so furious, man. The fact that this has gone on for so long. And it should infuriate everybody. Especially those, left-leaning activists and feminists that think, that agree with all of the things that we're trying to do. They just don't agree with who's doing it, Hypocrites. Makes me sick. But, it makes me much sicker. The things that have gone on for so long. And nobody has had the balls to do anything about it. I'll be straight. Trump's not my favorite human being. There are things about him I like, and there's things about him I really don't like. And I think that's reasonable to say about anybody. But Trump in particular. There's a lot to dislike about the man. And that's fine. Put that aside. That's called a bias. I can still look at the facts, and I can still look at the situation, and not let those things affect how I view those things. The left, the party that stands for equality and justice. Where are they? Where are the people protesting for the women's rights in Iran? Huh? Oh, wait, they were in Iran and they got killed. That's right. It's just so hypocritical to me. And I am sure I'm not alone in that sentiment at all. But I've got people that are close to me that I know well. My own family members, some. That, they're basically never Trumpers. They're definitely the type that, if Trump cured cancer, they'd go start smoking or something, They're the same ones that believed that since Trump was going to be president, that all of a sudden now that all the gays would be rounded up and put into camps. And still no gay camps. But yeah, I don't think I'm alone when I say that the hypocrisy, it's astounding to me. It's astounding how you can just be so silent on the real issues here. Yeah, I just don't get it. I don't vibe with it, man.
Discussing the latest with what we're seeing there as President Trump saying they need to safely reopen the Strait of Hormuz as this deadline come and gone, a double-sided ceasefire in place moving forward. And we're hearing here on Live Now from Fox of that post here that initially came down as it was 8 a.m. this morning. We heard from the president saying that the whole civilization will die tonight in reference to Iran 8 p.m. tonight.
Yeah.
Your father is part
I
of the
believe he might have been upset just a little bit, maybe just a little bit.
Understand reality, but
Sorry, the commercial.
into a lot to make of this, and that enforcement component is so very vital. Also, what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz, how much oil is able to move through that region, that choke point, based on Iran saying the coordination, but also the technical diligence of them. So some conditions in place. They have a 15-point plan. We'll see how much overlap there might be right now. So following that here on Live Now from Fox very closely. We're also expecting to hear from the Department of Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, tomorrow morning. It was supposed to be this morning. Now it is tomorrow morning. They called it off early on Tuesday. Now expected to take place tomorrow. Chairman Raising Cane as well.
Well, I will be online. I will be live for that for sure.
Obviously, a lot has changed.
I am live every morning around 7 a.m. I do that for like the opening bell for the market. Yeah, I realize that the market doesn't open until 9:30, but I like to get on and check out some news and just take a more relaxed approach to it at first. Get a little heads up on what the market's doing, and then of course pre-market starts at 8, but yeah, around 7 a.m. during the weekdays, you can find me live right here, and I will continue to do that. However, within the next week or two, at some point, I'm going to have to pack up from where I'm at right now, because I am currently staying with a friend, and yeah, I've been here longer than we initially discussed, and yeah, I'm kind of wearing out my welcome, and she hasn't said anything about it. That's just me. I just feel like I'm imposing. I don't know what I'm gonna do quite yet, but yeah. So if I have to, I will be sleeping in my car because I can't afford a hotel room. But and YouTube and Rumble don't pay enough. Just recently got monetized on YouTube in January, and it's now been 3 months since I was monetized. I've made a whole, I think it's like $80-something. So still a small channel, and so I greatly appreciate everybody watching. It really helps out. It's growing slowly but surely. Okay, let's go back and see what these jerks are talking about. Oh.
Was if Iran were to launch a nuclear attack on Israel, what would our response be? And I want the Iranians to know that if I'm the president, we will attack Iran.
Oh.
We would be able to totally
perfect timing
obliterate them.
Hey, same words that Trump used and everything.
Totally obliterate them. Back then it was military necessity. Now, well, it's political outrage. The hypocrisy is just completely unreal.
That sure
Joining
is.
me now, retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer and defiant author and former Trump attorney Christina Bobb. Thank you both so much for joining the Pulse this evening. Christina, I want to start with you. Do you view anything that was on the table tonight as a war crime?
No, I don't. He certainly hasn't done anything to violate American law. And as much as they like to pretend that he doesn't have the authority to do this, Congress specifically has authorized him to do this with the authorized use of military force that they continue to update, which is current to this day.
Yeah, absolutely.
If they really
he
thought
has
that
every
it was
right
illegal
to.
or that he didn't have the power to do exactly what he's doing, they could pass a resolution revoking that, and they haven't done it. So
That's
a lot
right.
of this is just talk. They want to throw out international law and say, oh,
bypass all that BS you see on social
which,
media.
To my knowledge, he hasn't done. He did threaten infrastructure, but he hasn't actually done
Threatening's
anything.
one thing.
So it's hard to determine, are liberals upset that there's a ceasefire? Did they want him to do it?
They don't know themselves.
They're kind of talking out of both sides of their mouth, but I don't think he has anything really truly to be worried about as far as legally. However, I think whatever Democrats say, they're projecting, and so I would take them seriously about if there's something in the future that they want to try to accuse him of, even whether it's real or not, they tend to try to do that. So,
well, they continue to try to do. They claim him that he's done everything. I mean, again, the guy could literally cure cancer, and then come out with
a
anti-cure campaign and blame Donald Trump
Exactly.
for creating cancer in the first place.
Yeah.
Tony, Iran's
What's
president
this?
claims that more than 14 million Iranians have registered to, quote, sacrifice their lives to defend the country.
Bullshit.
They're trying to form human chains around the power plants. Seems forced. And Democrats are accusing Trump of threatening genocide. Yet Iran is putting up literally human shields to protect military targets.
Yeah, where's your outrage?
So who is really the genocidal maniac that doesn't care about the lives of civilians?
Yeah, it's a moot point. You're not going to get any of these maniacs to admit to anything like that. That's just not in their wheelhouse. I've got something funny I do want to show. I think it's newer-ish. It's on my Facebook. This jackass right here. Come on. What? The guy cracks me up. That's enough of that. Yeah. That guy. I will say this, man. Iran's definitely winning the meme war. Great God. Or the propaganda war, I should say. The amount of garbage that's just coming out of, oh my God, it's insane. It's insane the amount of complete and utter lies and fantasy that comes out. So don't believe what you see on social media. I know most of you people are intelligent enough to know that without being told, but I swear to God, it needs to be an hourly reminder for some people. Because, the tendency is when you see a story, you see a headline that you vibe with, that you want to be true, you're just more inclined to believe it. And most people, unfortunately, they just read headlines. Most of the people don't click on the story, much less even look into the comments. They won't even go past the headline, and they'll absorb it into that meat in their skull as if it's gospel. That's the reason why you have so much stupid, is because of that one general thing.
Lost his
it's so stupid.
Capacity to govern. I don't see anything here that indicates he's not capable of fulfilling his duties. So no, I don't think there's
some jackass is trying to. Some jackass was trying to say he wasn't fit. You know what? I've got something hilarious that I just remembered. Oh man, this is good. This was hilarious, guys. Give me 1 second. I gotta pull it off of. I sent it to a friend of mine. Oh yeah, it's way up. Sorry, bear with me. This is totally worth it. There's some guy freaking out. I'm curious to find out where he is right now and what he's feeling now that he sees this ceasefire. Total jackass. Come on. Where you at? Oh, here we go. It's coming. Where are you at? I know you're right there. Oh, that's not it. Damn it. It's killing me. There we go. Got it. This is glorious. Well, he's not Muslim. I mean, come on. Why else say it? He was trolling them. And these people like this just crack me up. Like this guy ranting. Like, relax, bro. Relax. Your prescription's been filled. Go get it and then put the fries in a bag and shut up. Not the Easter Bunny. Yeah. And you can't do it. Nah, see, everyone in government has more information than your peasant ass does, than you or I have. They have access to complete information. So it all makes sense to them. You're just not in the know. And we have too much access to the wrong information. That's the problem with being a peasant. Too much access to the wrong information and echo chambers, which is all social media is. I'll give you a prime example of proof of echo chambers, okay? If you're on social media, I'm sure you've seen the ads for a service called Skool, Skool. It's for content creators. It's pretty much just another social media platform, but they want you to go in there and set up like a group of your niche and build those groups, right? Well, one of the people who signed up, this was like a testimonial that I saw. They started a group about chickens. Just chickens. Just a group about chickens. Nothing about like breeding chickens or feeding chicken. No, just chicken. That was the group. Just chicken. Like live chickens, not the food. Like, it's food, yes, but live chickens, livestock, okay? Anyway, they were amazed at how many people joined up with the group. And in 2 days, they had over 100 people. And the lady who started the group, her reaction was priceless. She was like, I didn't think that there was that many people interested in chickens. Well, yeah. You create a space and they will come together. And the problem there is, take Flat Earth, for example. You have an asinine idea such as Flat Earth, okay? And before the internet, these people likely still existed, but they were few and far between. They didn't have other idiots that were just as stupid as them to congregate with and validate their stupid ideas and embolden them into thinking that their ideas are worth more than a punch in the face. Nowadays, these morons do have the echo chambers that embolden their ridiculous beliefs. That's the problem. That's the problem with the internet and echo chambers right there. That's the biggest problem. So you need to combat that by acknowledging it when you see it. And don't play into it. Don't exacerbate it. Don't predicate it. Don't fall into the trap of being that which you hate or that which you know is stupid. Hate's a powerful word in this context, but you get what I'm saying. I'm just ranting. I don't want to hear about anything from anybody. Ever. Leave me alone. Hey, guess what? He didn't do it, did he? This guy trips me out. This video has gotten, I don't know how many views, but I hope he gets the help that he needs. Poor bastard. Can you imagine just being this type of perpetually miserable person that, you get one shred of information that validates this little thought that you had in your head, and then you end up going on a tirade like this? This right here, that's a product of existing in echo chambers. Like, okay, clearly he didn't have enough information. All right. And he thinks he does. And he goes off on a tangent based on essentially what amounts to not more than a hunch. Okay. Listen to the things he said about what Trump is going to do and what he will do. And then he rolls in, has done before, into the same sentence where he's talking about genocide, for Christ's sake. The leaps that it takes to get to this place mentally, you can spot it before it happens. Just, police your own thoughts on things. Don't look for what you want. Now, I realize the algorithms feed you what you want. If you click on a couple of pro-Trump things here, you're not going to see anything anti-Trump for a while. Well, guess what, man? You can still seek it out. And I think it's only fair to go looking for opposing opinions that are different than what you want to believe. Go looking for it, if for no other reason than to prove it wrong for yourself. I think there's value in that. Break that algorithm, man, because the algorithm is poisonous. It doesn't help you. It entertains you, but it doesn't help you. It doesn't help you in your search for the truth. Because, if you're someone that thinks the Earth is flat, well, the algorithm is going to feed you complete and utter nonsense, because that's what you respond to. Just because you see a lot of it doesn't mean you're right. Quantity does not equal quality. Anyway, all right. Sorry. Another rant. My bad.
Minds of voters right now. It's caused gas prices to go up, and it could impact inflation in the days and the weeks ahead. But President Trump, he said all along that this conflict, it will not last more than a few weeks. So forward, will Iran still be a top issue for voters come November?
If it ends by Memorial Day, no, it won't. Look, this was a politically brave move by President Trump. He didn't have to do what was right going into Iran. And right now with the ceasefires, as we're talking, David, you actually have the futures markets booming, and oil's dropped already by 13%. When President Trump said this war will, when it winds up, the oil prices will go down. He's absolutely right. And frankly, if we can take away the Strait of Hormuz from Iran, we're going to be able to take away their power for decades to come when it comes holding the rest of the world hostage.
And that'll change things globally, I think, drastically.
Oh, absolutely.
The regime, it is already at a low point, with hundreds of military targets neutralized now and its leadership structure crumbling. U.S. troops are delivering results in Iran. Congressman Murphy, the conflict could end up being a positive for GOP candidates if it's wrapped up in a decisive way that benefits American interests, wouldn't you say?
If it does end in that way that helps American interests, that's
you
a great
realize
that, and then
many
members will be able
people
to
on
go
the
into
left,
the
many of these candidates that are on the left right now running in midterms, you realize there's not very many candidates out there that have any policy going on. When's the last left-leaning policy you've heard anything about at all? Please, somebody drop it in the chat if I'm missing it. I can't think of any. There again, the algorithm doesn't feed me that kind of stuff because I'm not looking for it. But what's the last leftist policy you've heard a damn thing about? The only thing that they're running on in midterms is Trump bad. That's it. That's all they've got. And you know what the thing about that is for a lot of people, that's enough. So don't get overconfident about these midterms. Get out there and vote, because elections are won in the margins. Okay, that's how Trump won. Trump went after small little minority groups. And when I say minority, I don't mean black, I don't mean Mexican. No, I mean little small insignificant groups like one issue voters. You know, like went after the weed people. He went after Bitcoin. That's a big one, but still, it was little niche groups like that. I mean, he campaigned tirelessly, and he went after several of these types of one-issue groups. But that's how all elections are won, is won in the margins. And I'm telling you, one issue is enough for these maniacs to take the House, or in the midterms, I mean. But yeah, I highly suggest that everybody go out there and vote. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. You vote who you want to vote for, but I'm telling you, don't be complicit or complacent. Don't think that, I don't need to bother with the midterms. Country's doing good. Nah, do it. Just go out there. If you don't know anything about the candidates, just vote party lines. Vote your party lines across the board. I would encourage you to learn a little bit about what they're going to bring to the table, of course. But, if you ain't got time for all that and you just want to preserve the situation the way it is, just vote down party lines. Because I'm telling you, if Republicans lose the House and Senate and all that, if they don't maintain control, that ginger kid that was just ranting, do you think I could convince him of any of this? Do you think I could convince him of anything? Hell no. And that's the majority of the people out there. All right. Well, guys, I am going to go ahead and call it a day. I'm tired. The house is winding down here where I'm at. I appreciate everybody being here. Come back at 7 a.m. I'll be back up to do news in the morning. I appreciate you. Love every one of you guys for being here. Thank you so much. Be sure to hit the like button, please. That would really be awesome. Other than that, that's all I got. Be good to each other. Listen to each other. And do your best to step out of your algorithm. All right? Peace, love, and hair grease. I'll see you tomorrow.